Britain has just crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. King Charles has been publicly shamed, Parliament is in freefall, and millions of angry Britons are demanding a general election right now, not next month, not next year, but immediately. What started as quiet frustration has exploded into a nationwide revolt against the political establishment. The government's authority is collapsing by the hour, and Westminster has never looked so powerless. Charles is now trapped between an enraged public and a government clinging desperately to power. And what he does next could decide whether Britain faces an orderly transition or descends into total constitutional chaos. Here's the reality no one at Downing Street wants to admit. The government has lost control of the narrative, and the people know it. Approval ratings for the Prime Minister have plunged to historic lows. The latest polling shows trust in the government at just 18%, a figure lower than during the expenses scandal or even the Brexit chaos. The country is demanding fresh elections, and those calls are no longer limited to activists or fringe political movements. Over 5 million signatures have poured into Parliament's online petition system in just 72 hours, shattering every record in British political history. This movement is now bigger than any single political party. Conservative voters, Labour voters, Liberal Democrats, and millions of independents are all saying the same thing. Enough is enough. They want an election, they want it immediately, and they will not wait quietly while a government they no longer trust clings to power. Social media has become the beating heart of this uprising. The hashtag General Election now has been trending globally for over a week. TikTok videos of ordinary Britons calling for change have hit 100 million views. YouTube creators are gaining hundreds of thousands of subscribers almost overnight by exposing the failures of Westminster. And here's where things get truly dangerous for the establishment. The anger is no longer just political, it's personal. Protesters outside Buckingham Palace have held banners directly naming King Charles, accusing him of protecting a failed government. This is unprecedented territory. The monarchy is supposed to stay above politics. But now Charles himself is seen as complicit by refusing to intervene. Palace sources whisper that Charles has been privately warned that his approval ratings have dipped below 50% for the first time since his coronation. That might not sound catastrophic, but it's a warning shot. If the monarchy loses the support of the majority, its very survival could be at risk. Parliament is now paralyzed. Cabinet ministers are split down the middle. Some argue that calling an immediate election is the only way to save what little trust remains in the democratic system. Others warn that going to the polls now would be electoral suicide. Polls suggest the governing party could lose more than 200 seats, possibly triggering the largest political realignment in decades. The Prime Minister is reportedly in crisis talks with senior advisors and has held 3 emergency meetings in just 24 hours. Yet every statement coming from Number 10 sounds more desperate, more detached from the mood of the nation. Economic pressure is adding fuel to this fire. The pound has already fallen 3% in just a few days, as markets brace for uncertainty. Business leaders are warning that investor confidence is collapsing, and major corporations are preparing contingency plans for a potential change of government. The Federation of Small Businesses reported that 71% of their members believe a snap election is now necessary to restore stability. Trade unions are mobilising on a scale not seen since the 1980s, preparing coordinated strikes that could grind key infrastructure to a halt within weeks. And looming over all of this is the figure of King Charles. The royal household is in turmoil, with insiders describing an atmosphere of cold panic. Charles is said to be consulting constitutional scholars and senior legal advisors to determine whether he has the authority or the duty to intervene. The last time a British monarch even considered such a step was nearly 2 centuries ago. If Charles dissolves Parliament, he will be accused of breaking centuries of royal neutrality. If he refuses, he risks being remembered as the king who stood by while the country slid into chaos. This is not a slow-moving crisis. The timeline is accelerating. Senior MPs have hinted that if the Prime Minister does not call an election voluntarily, they may table a vote of no confidence within days, a vote the government is almost certain to lose. But if the Prime Minister refuses to step aside even after losing such a vote, Britain could enter completely uncharted constitutional territory, with the King forced to choose between dismissing a sitting Prime Minister or watching Parliament collapse entirely. And that is the choice staring Charles in the face right now. Act and risk being accused of a royal coup. Stay silent and risk watching Britain tear itself apart. The next 48 hours will be critical. The protests are no longer confined to London. They are spreading like wildfire across the nation. In Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Cardiff, Glasgow city squares are filling with crowds demanding immediate elections. The police have already been placed on high alert, with senior officers warning that the situation could spiral out of control if the government refuses to budge. Sources inside the Metropolitan Police describe an unprecedented level of coordination between protest groups, with some demonstrations attracting tens of thousands of people. This is not a handful of angry activists. This is the middle class, the working class, pensioners, students, entire families marching together under a single demand: call an election now. Political insiders say this is the moment Westminster feared most. Not because protests are new, but because this time there is unity. Normally, Britain's political crises are fractured, split between left and right, city and countryside, Remain and Leave, but this movement cuts across all those divides. People who have not agreed on anything for years are now united in a single voice, and that voice is thundering through the halls of Parliament. MPs are reportedly receiving thousands of angry letters and emails every single day. One Conservative MP told The Times that the mood in their constituency is beyond volatile, and warned that if we do not give people a vote soon, they may take matters into their own hands. International pressure is mounting as well. European leaders have privately urged Britain to resolve its crisis quickly, fearing the chaos could destabilise the continent. The White House issued a rare late-night statement stressing the importance of respecting democratic accountability. And in a sign of how seriously this is being taken, NATO officials have reportedly asked for briefings on the situation, worried that prolonged instability could weaken Britain's focus on global security commitments. The world is watching, and it does not like what it sees. Meanwhile, cracks are beginning to appear inside the governing party itself. Cabinet ministers are briefing against each other, leaks are pouring out of Downing Street, and whispers of an internal coup are growing louder. According to one Westminster source, several senior ministers have already drafted resignation letters and may go public within hours. Such a move would collapse what little authority the Prime Minister has left and could leave Britain without a functioning government altogether. And then there is the question of King Charles's next move. Palace courtiers are reportedly divided into two camps, those urging caution and those insisting the monarchy must show leadership. The younger advisors, closer to Prince William's generation, believe that neutrality in the face of a democratic collapse is impossible. They argue that if the monarchy does nothing while Parliament loses legitimacy, the institution will be fatally weakened. On the other side are the traditionalists, who warn that any intervention would drag the crown into politics and shatter its impartial image forever. Charles is said to be holding back-to-back meetings with both sides, weighing the survival of the monarchy against the survival of the government. The stakes could not be higher. If Charles intervenes and calls for a snap election, he will make history as the first monarch in modern times to overrule a sitting Prime Minister's wishes. If he refuses, Britain could see the largest wave of civil disobedience in a generation. Already, organisers are planning what they are calling the day democracy stood still, a coordinated nationwide shutdown that could see transport workers, teachers, nurses and civil servants walking out simultaneously. Economists warn that such an event could wipe billions off the economy in a single day. But here's the twist no one is prepared for. Intelligence officials are reportedly warning of possible infiltration of these protests by more radical groups seeking to escalate tensions further. There are fears that if just one major demonstration turns violent, it could trigger a chain reaction across the country, pushing Britain into a full-blown constitutional crisis. Some MPs have quietly begun contacting military liaisons to discuss what contingency plans might look like if the government loses control of the streets. And all of this leads back to one man, King Charles. Palace insiders confirm that a national address is being prepared, but what it will contain is still a closely guarded secret. Will Charles side with the people and demand a general election? Will he stand by the government and risk being branded as part of the problem? Or will he refuse to act altogether, gambling that this storm will pass on its own? History is being written in real time. By this time tomorrow, Britain could be on the path to a fresh election, locked in a constitutional standoff, or teetering on the brink of open unrest. The country is holding its breath, the government is cornered, the king is under pressure like never before. And as the clock ticks down, one question remains. Will Charles act to save the system, or will he watch as the system collapses around him? Whatever he decides, the consequences will echo through Britain for generations. This isn't just about politics, it's about whether the people still believe in their institutions, and whether those institutions are capable of answering the will of the people. Britain is standing on the edge of history, and the next 48 hours will decide which way it falls.